everybody, it's Rebecca, and it's time for my Best Picture Readathon TBR. I gotta turn the baby monitor off. Hang on. Alright, it's down to 1, so I can still hear it. Plus she's like right next door. Anyway, I promised this was coming. It's a little late, considering that the readathon starts like today or tomorrow, depending on when I edit this. But yeah, it's like now. It's happening like right now. I just put together the TBR like yesterday. So yeah, anyway, here it is. Here's the TBR for the very first ever Best Picture Readathon, which if you want more information about, go check out my announcement video, which I'll link below. Before I get into the books, I want to give a little warning here that I'm probably not going to read all these books. It's not going to happen. There's 9 of them. It's just probably impossible for me to read that many books in 7 days with a full-time job and a toddler. But I like a challenge. Also, I'm not really sure which book I want to read for. Like, I know the top like 2, but like, what if I finish both of those? What comes next? I like options. And, you know, it's kind of what I'm feeling for. Not to mention, those of you who are participating, you might need options, so you could read these as well, if you needed them. So, for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the topic was a buzzy book that you don't know much about. For this one, I have chosen There There by Tommy Orange. I've had this book for like 6 months or something. I went and actually saw him speak at NCTE, and I still haven't read it. All I know is it's Native American. That's literally all I know. So, and its own voices, and that it's good. So, it was really popular last year or the year before. It's New York Times, one of the best books of the year from, again, whatever year. So, yeah, this one fits into that really well. Next up is The Irishman. The challenge was a book at least 400 pages long. I am right in the middle of the Scythe trilogy, so I figured The Toll by Neal Shusterman, which is the 3rd and final book in the trilogy, would work really well, although it's like 650 pages or something crazy like that, so it very well beats that challenge. This is probably not going to happen this week because I haven't watched The Irishman yet, but I just have a feeling I'm not really gonna enjoy it super much, but who knows? I am excited to read this book. I just don't think it's gonna happen this week because it's 650 pages, and if I'm going for quantity, then I can't. But maybe I will. We'll see. Next is Parasite, which was a book in translation or a book set in Korea. And so I have Drifting House by Krys Lee. This takes place in both America and Korea, and I believe it's North Korea and South Korea. It's like 4 different stories. It's over a span of time in different places. I don't believe this is a translated work, but my eye has been on this one for like a couple months now. I was debating between this one and Please Look After Mom, which is another book set in Korea by a Korean author, I believe. I went with this one because it's shorter and just because it sounded a little bit more interesting to me. I keep being drawn to it. So this is probably one that I'm going to read because I really liked Parasite. So yes. For 1917, the challenge was a book set during a war, and we said it could be any war. It did not have to be World War I. I've chosen War Girls by Tochi Onyebuchi, which is a set in the future. It's dystopian. It's in Nigeria, and its world is basically global warming has happened, and it's the war. The world is torn by war, especially in Nigeria, which has connections to modern times in the Civil War in Nigeria as well. And so it deals with sisters who are torn apart by this war, which also deals with like technology and things like that and how technology plays a part in war and humanity, and I thought that was really cool, so I'm excited to read this one. This is another one that I'm probably putting towards the top of my list because I also really liked 1917, plus this is on my TBR for the month anyway because I am part of a book club and this is the book that I chose for that, so I have to read it. So I figured it would fit perfectly. Also, this one could potentially work for a book that's over 400 pages because I believe it's like 450 or something like that. So, you know, killing some birds with some stones. For Marriage Story, we chose a book about a relationship, and another book that's on my February TBR anyway is The Unhoneymooners by Christina. This is not generally my genre, but I'm part of a teacher monthly reading challenge for Pop Sugar, essentially, and this was the book that was chosen for February anyway, and so I was like, well, it sounds interesting, it ticks some boxes on Pop Sugar, and it also fits this challenge. So it does sound really interesting, and so I am excited to read it, even though it's not typically my genre. That's okay. JOJO Rabbit's challenge was a book whose protagonists are children. I could have gone the kids book route, and I may still. I read them every night with my daughter. However, I decided to try to check off books that I've been meaning to read anyway, so I chose Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab. This is the second book in the City of Ghosts series that she's writing, and it's about a girl who can see ghosts in different places. She travels all over Europe. It's really cool. It's a middle grade book. I think the protagonist is like 11 or 12, 13, somewhere in there. So it fits. I like it. I like Victoria Schwab. I'll read anything she writes anyway. For Joker, the challenge was a book whose protagonist is a villain or unreliable narrator. So I went with Renegades by Marissa Meyer, one that's been on my shelf for a while and I haven't read it. I don't really know. I think it fits this category. I haven't read it. I still don't really know what it's about. I think it's superheroes and the main character like doesn't like the superheroes. I'm not sure, but I did Google like books with villains as protagonists and this came up. So I'm guessing that it works. If it doesn't, please let me know. But this is what I'm planning to read as of right now. For Little Women, it's a book about women by a woman. And so I'm choosing, I don't have it with me because it's at school, but I'm choosing Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. I have read this one a few times. I'm currently in the middle of teaching it as well. So like, does that count? I'm gonna make it count because I've only technically read like a chapter this go around, I think. I mean, I've skimmed pieces to remind myself of things. I need to go back and like fully read it and to prepare for the discussion we're gonna have next week anyway. So I'm counting it. I'm counting it. Plus it fits perfectly with this. And Little Women is amazing. So it's one that I wanted to read a book for, even though I don't think it's gonna win the Oscar, nor do I think it's the best movie of the year. Of the nominees that I've watched, and probably all of them, it's the one that like I would rewatch many times. I loved it. It was great. And finally is Ford versus Ferrari. The challenge was to read a book with a challenge or a race. And so I have chosen another reread, which is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I've only read this once, and it was years ago, and I just remember how much I loved it. Like, I was spurred to write a review, which was like before I started BookTube, and like, I just loved it. And I've been wanting to reread it anyway. It's on my list of books that I want to read this year or reread this year. So I thought, what better time, what better challenge than the Oscars challenge, because it's great. So it fits into that. So that's what I'm putting on there. I haven't watched that movie yet, so I don't know if I'll get around to it, but it's there. It's waiting for me. Whether I read it for this challenge or not, I'm rereading it because it's awesome. So that's my TBR for the Best Picture Readathon 2020, the first ever Best Picture Readathon, and I'm very excited. Will I get to all these? Who knows? Follow along with me on Instagram and Twitter. Follow us on Twitter and we can chat. Send us your TBRs and check out Caitlin's TBR video as well. Links to everything down in the description or the doobly-doo or whatever you want to call it. There are links down there that you can click on. Come say hey, tell us what you're reading, and let me know if you want to read something together. I guess that's it for me today. I'll see you next time.